Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 300. Joined once again by Jacob Camenker of the Sporting News. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm pretty pumped that it's the 300th episode. We were doing the math before. If you listen to one of these podcast episodes for every day of the year, you'd be filled with like 10 months worth of podcast material. Granted, these go a ways back, but still, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, if you wanted to watch our 2018 picks, you can go ahead. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. So this is our Week 7 NFL picks against the spread episode. So it's really cool to be at 300. So thanks to you and Kenny and also Matt VI, we started with to make this happen for 300 episodes. It's awesome. But yeah, we're going to talk about our Week 7 NFL picks. First of all, how'd you do in your Week 6 NFL picks?
Week 6 was okay. I went 8-6, so I still haven't had a losing week in terms of, record. But my big unit picks, the 3 in the early afternoon, they all failed. I believe I had the Vikings, the Ravens, and the Colts. And the Colts got behind early. The Vikings were terrible. And the Ravens had the cover and then absolutely blew it against the Eagles for really no reason. They just let the Eagles get back in the game. So that was frustrating to lose, but I'll take a winning week, even if it's breaking even in the money column. At least I'm doing a little something right.
Yeah, that was so frustrating. The Ravens failing the cover, I think that prevented us from going 3-2 in the Super Contest, which is kind of a bummer. But 2-3 is one of our worst weeks. I'll take it. This Week 6 was just brutal just because of that game. Also, I had the Redskins. I had them right in the Super Contest, but late in the week, it dropped to a pick'em, and I got the pick'em, and they ended up winning. They ended up losing by 1, so I didn't win the bet. So it was just a bloodbath overall. 5-9 with the picks overall, counting the Ravens blown cover and the Redskins, loss with the pick'em. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I missed some things, so I can at least know how to correct it. Some bad luck. What are you going to do? So I'm expecting a rebound in Week 7. I wasn't a big fan of the Week 6 slate. I only had 2 picks of higher than 3 units, more than 3 units. It was the Redskins and the Jaguars, which I don't know what happened to Jacksonville. That was a disaster. But I wasn't a big fan of the card, and yet I just lost all the medium-sized bets. It's just awful. So I think this Week 7 card looks better. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. This one's significantly better. I felt like Week 5 and 6, the line started to really tighten up where I could see a case for either side. I'm pretty sure I had no bets of more than 3 units these past 2 weeks, which usually I have at least one big bet, but I didn't really have any. So this week, I think there are some sides we could definitely take advantage of. So hopefully we'll be on the same side in those games.
Yeah, I hope so. I loved Week 5. Week 6, I wasn't a fan of. What happened to my hair? It's it's all gone. This is my first haircut in like 2 months, so it's nice to not to worry about it at all. So before we begin with the picks, please hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Send this link out to someone who likes football. Hit the notification bell, like the video. That help us out a lot. It really would. So if you want to help out the show and have 300 more episodes of this, that would mean a lot. And so let's move on to the first game. So the Thursday night game, we have a Thursday night game this week, unlike last week. So it's the Giants at the Eagles. This line opened up Eagles -6.5, and it went down to 3.5 because of some numerous injuries the Eagles have, including Miles Sanders. The line's back up to 4. I saw some 4.5s like a half hour ago, but they disappeared. So who you like in this game?
Yeah, I want to first say that technically the Monday night game, Chiefs-Bills, was a Thursday night game, and I did cover that one. So I'm still undefeated, 6-0 now on Thursday Night Football, 5-0 on the actual day of Thursday. So hopefully I keep this going. I like the Eagles in this one. I know they're still missing a ton of pieces. They're missing so many offensive linemen. It's ridiculous. They're probably going to be without Goddard this Thursday. I don't think he's going to be activated from IR this week. I know he's eligible, but I think they would just buy him the time to, fully recover. We don't know if Alshon Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson are going to play. I'm assuming they will. But between all the injuries they have on offense, it's absurd. But they're playing the Giants, and the Giants on offense are not very good. And I think the Eagles defense matches up pretty well with them in terms of being able to get pressure on Daniel Jones. And that was something that Washington couldn't really do much on Sunday. They only got 1 sack on him. He only threw, I think, 19 times, but there really wasn't a ton of pressure. But when he was under pressure, that's when he makes his mistakes and kind of makes bad throws. The Eagles have the personnel to do that. And, Washington, even without pressuring them, only allowed the Giants to score 13 offensive points. I think the Eagles could have a similar output if they can get some pressure on him. And I do think Jackson and Jeffrey come back for the Eagles offense. And whether that helps them just in terms of depth or it helps them on the field in any way whatsoever, I think having 3 legit passing weapons for Carson Wentz would be pretty huge. And, I have to give him credit. Wentz has played very well lately. It hasn't always been, at the point of the game where it's like, oh, all right, we're going to go win this. But he was able to kind of make some plays late against the Ravens and get them into a game that they had no business in being in late. So I think that he can lead them against the Giants defense. So I like the Eagles here. There was a question about Engram destroying the Eagles linebackers. I like that in theory. In practice, every time Evan Engram has a good matchup, he does absolutely nothing. Like last week against Washington, he was supposed to have a big game. I think he caught 2 passes for 30 yards. So I don't think Engram makes a big impact here. Apologies on that, JL Reed.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Like you said, Engram, whenever he has a good matchup, he just always is a bust. Against the Rams a couple weeks ago too, he just didn't come through. So while it does look good on paper, I don't know if I'm going to do it. Like maybe I don't know what his price is in the showdown slate, but maybe you'll put him in if he's cheap. But if he's like on the expensive side, then I wouldn't use Engram. So I like the Eagles here. So normally I think you take the underdog in these NFC East battles. Like their underdog almost always covers. These teams know each other so well, and usually one team is not that much better than the other. So if this were a Sunday game, I think I would consider the Giants maybe. But given that this is a Thursday night game, I would take the Eagles because the Thursday night game really goes to the better team as long as that team's focused, because there's not as much time to prepare. And the Eagles, I think, are clearly the better team, especially if they have one of Deshaun Jackson or Alshon Jeffrey back. It definitely sounds like Jackson will play. Not sure about Jeffrey, but at least having Jackson on the field will preoccupy James Bradbury, and that means Travis Fulgham will have a better matchup. Also, there's a chance Lane Johnson might play. He may not be 100%. It's probably not going to be 100%. But having him on the field is definitely going to be better than having the backup on the field. So there's a lot of hope for the Eagles. So if Lane Johnson and Jackson suit up, I think I might bet on the Eagles. If they don't, I'm still going to pick the Eagles, but I'm not going to bet them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you hit on a key point that I love on Thursday night football games, not just betting the better side, but if the better side is at home and has the advantage in the trenches, I think usually you want to go with that side. Now, the offensive lines for both teams are pretty shaky, but I tend to like the pass rush ability of the Eagles line better than the pass rush ability of the Giants line. I like the Giants 3-man front. They're very good against the run, but I don't think they get a lot of pressure. So I just like the Eagles for that reason too. Home team, Thursday night football, better team, go with it.
Yeah, the Giants just don't get any pressure. They don't do much well at all. So I don't think they're going to beat the Eagles, but I guess we'll see. Crazier things have happened. Moving on to Sunday, the Browns at the Bengals. This line opened up Browns -4.5. It went down to 3, although you have to pay juice to get the -3. So yeah, this is one I screwed up last week. I had the Browns over the Steelers. They really threw me off with Baker Mayfield having a full designation of practice on Friday. I was like, okay, maybe Baker's fine. And he definitely wasn't. He looked injured. So we assume he's going to play this game, but he may not be 100%. So with that in mind, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, we had texted about Baker too, because I wanted the Steelers for the Super Contest, and you talked me out of it, so I'm holding a grudge against you for that. Not actually, because I could, if I really liked it, I could have just been like, no, we need to go with this. But yeah, I think I hate the practice stuff when it's like, all right, we put him up with a rib injury, because rib injuries linger. They're like hamstring injuries, not in the way, soft tissue injuries recur a lot, but rib injuries just take a long time to heal. And anytime you get hit, it hurts. So clearly Mayfield was still feeling that. That said, I'm leaning towards the Browns this week at -3 if Mayfield is healthy. We're obviously going to have to wait throughout the week to see what he does in practice. I mean, if he's limited all week, I'm going to be a little skeptical of it. I'm going to really rely on the reports of people who are at practice, seeing how he's moving around. That's going to be big this week. But if you just look at this, the Browns are a much better team than the Bengals, I think, and they have advantages in two key areas. The Bengals' offensive line is very weak, and Joe Burrow under pressure hasn't been able to score. We saw it against the Ravens a couple weeks ago when they put up 3 points and he was under pressure the whole game. And against the Colts came out very, very sluggish. But then after the half, they started playing better in coverage and getting a little bit more heat on Burrow, and the Bengals only scored 3 points after that. So I think the key is getting pressure, and I think Cleveland can do that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the Bengals defense just isn't very good. They've had some stacked injuries at defensive tackle that have made their run defense not great at times. So I think Kareem Hunt can take a little advantage of that. And then in the secondary, they're susceptible against receivers in the middle of the field. So I think Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Are going to be able to get open enough to make some big plays. So I think if Mayfield's healthy, they should cover 3 pretty easily. I like how much the line has moved because I don't really think anything's changed about the Browns as a team. Maybe the perception of the Bengals is shifted because they played the Colts close. But I still think the Browns have an advantage. So I would be on them, but I'm waiting to see how much I would bet on this until we know what's going on with Mayfield.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me, although I'm like currently penciling in the Bengals because I'm assuming that Mayfield is not going to be 100%. So we'll see. I actually looked at the injury report from last week today, and I was interested to see what Jimmy Garoppolo's statuses look like throughout the week because he was not healthy against the Dolphins at all. Like, in fact, they benched him at halftime, and then he was 100% against the Rams. So throughout week 6, he was full every single day, like not limited at all. So if we see Mayfield full every single day, or at least like 2 of the days, I think we can be confident, without reading anything or having additional information. So I think that's what it's going to take for me to go with the Browns. But if Mayfield is the same as last week, if he's like limited full, unless we hear something else, I'm probably going to be on the Bengals because I don't want to lay a field goal on the road with the team that has an injured quarterback. Like Mayfield didn't look like he could beat anyone except for maybe, the Giants or the Jets. I just don't see it happening that way. But if Mayfield's 100%, then I'm with you on the Browns here because we're getting good line value. The advanced spread on this game was Browns -4.5, and now it's 3. So we're getting key numbers of 3 and 4. So I definitely like that. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see on Mayfield's status.
Yeah, I think we're both viewing the game the same way. But with our pencil marks, I'm assuming Mayfield's healthy and you're assuming he's not. So kind of a good mix. We're on the same page. But yeah, come Friday, that'll be big. Obviously, Wednesday will be the first big one. But if he's limited on Thursday, that's probably when I would think about switching the pick because I think you're right on about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. By the way, I just realized I don't have my microphone. I turned this on to write up or to write up these the things at the bottom here in advance because I usually do it while we're recording, and then I forgot to ring my microphone. So hopefully people can hear me well. I don't know how my audio sounds.
You're fine on my end, so I don't know if I have any special privileges, but yeah, if you guys are having trouble hearing Walt, just say something. We can get him his microphone if need be.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what people say. All right, next game, Cowboys at the Redskins. This line opened up Cowboys -3, and now it's a pick 'em. It dropped all the way down. There's been so much sharp money coming in on Washington. So what do you think? Are you with the Sharps here?
I'm not with the Sharps, but I'm very biased against Washington because I have to watch them play every single week, and every single week I'm mostly disappointed. And listen, I know that the Cowboys were horrible against the Cardinals. Like, they couldn't do anything right, but Washington isn't the Cardinals. Like, they do not have a good offense, and on defense, they have they have a good defensive line, and they have Kendall Fuller, who's playing very well in the secondary. But aside from that, they don't have a lot. I think the key with the Cowboys is not falling behind early and not making mistakes, which they haven't done at all in most games this year. Like Andy Dalton's not going to dig you out of the hole. Dak Prescott has proven that he's able to do that on occasion. So props to Dak for that. But, Dalton had no chance once Zeke fumbled the game away basically twice. But I think this is a bit of an overreaction to see the line move this much. I get it. The Sharps are moving the money, so they might know something that we don't, or they might just be anticipating this is how the Cowboys are going to look now. But I think that we're going to see a shift in philosophy. I know it's a short week, but how hard is it for Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff to say, hey, we're going to run it with Zeke, and Zeke, you just can't fumble. That's all you have to do is not fumble. And Andy, we know that you have your 2 tackles out. You don't want to be under pressure against this line. So we're going to throw short passes to your receivers and let them make plays after the catch. Now, will that come to be? I don't know, but I do know that the Cowboys have a lot of offensive weapons, and if Andy Dalton can just tap into them a little bit, I think it's going to be hard for Washington to keep pace. So I'm on Dallas here. I'm not very confident in this. I probably will bet at most 1 unit on it, and you could probably convince me to go with Washington here, but I just think that the Cowboys should be the better team, and if they're not, that's telling that Mike McCarthy was a terrible hire, which I still think he is, but that would be the ultimate confirmation.
I wish we had that clip of Kenny yelling about Mike McCarthy a couple years ago when he was with the Packers. We were talking about the Packers Cardinals pick or something like that, and then Kenny started yelling about how bad of a coach McCarthy is. For some reason, that video's been erased from YouTube. I don't know who erased it. So we were trying to find it so we could clip it, but unfortunately we can't find it. I have to ask Kenny about it. Maybe he has it on his computer. Anyway, McCarthy is just so bad. And someone asked, who the Cowboys should hire instead. Charlie Campbell actually just made a video about that, about some coaches to hire. So you can look into that. I'm on the Redskins here. So I'm with the Sharps. Something I like to do a lot is to bet against teams coming off blowouts on Monday Night Football. And the reasoning behind that is because if a team gets blown out on Monday Night Football, they need to make major adjustments in all likelihood. And, that's not always the case. We saw the Ravens back in, week 3 against the Chiefs. They got blown out. And then, the next week they came back and won and covered, but they didn't need to make adjustments because they were lost to a great team. There's no shame in that. But the Cowboys definitely need to make adjustments. They need to fix some things. This is going to be Andy Dalton's second start. The offensive line's in shambles. They lost Zach Martin, Joe Looney. We don't know if he's going to come back. They have the 2 tackles who are out. They have to figure out how to block. And on a shortened week, I don't know if they'll be able to do that. So the number behind the Monday Night Blowout is so teams that lose by 17 or more on Monday Night Football are 35-55 against the spread. The following week, since 2002, I believe. I just don't see how the Cowboys get things together. The Redskins lost to the Giants last week, but Kyle Allen gave them 14 points. It was kind of like what the Cowboys did for the Cardinals. Kyle Allen just turned the ball over. He had that interception that he turned into 7 points, and then he had the fumble return for a touchdown with another 7 points. So really, if you think about it, the Redskins should have won 20-6 against the Giants. And I just think that with 4 offensive linemen out for Dallas, potentially, the Redskins should be able to pressure them. I know they didn't pressure Daniel Jones a lot, but Jones released the ball pretty quickly, and he ran a lot. Dalton doesn't have Daniel Jones's mobility at all. So I think Dalton's going to be in trouble, and I see him throwing more interceptions. And, Elliott fumbles a lot. That's what he's done all year. So I don't see why that would suddenly stop. So I like the Redskins here, and I think I might bet them pretty big depending on if Martin and Looney are out.
Yeah, if Zach Martin's out, I'll probably switch sides. I don't think that I can go with Washington right now just because I don't trust their quarterback. Not that I trust Dalton, but I trust the weapons around him. With Washington on offense, you kind of have to bet okay, Kyle Allen's going to show up and not play poorly. And he played well at times against the Giants. He put them in position to win at the end, but he also is, like you said, the reason that they were in position to lose anyway. My decision does not change if Alex Smith gets put in. I actually think it would be worse for them because Smith, as amazing as his comeback is, and you will not find a bigger Alex Smith supporter than me. Throughout all of his last 10 years, I've always argued that when he was at his best, he was, one of the most just slightly above average quarterbacks in the league that could win you games. And I liked him, but now he's just a shell of himself. He can't throw the ball downfield at all. So it would be worse if they played him than Kyle Allen. But I'm going to stick with Dallas. But your case for Washington makes sense. So, if you're looking for someone who's confident in this game, I would follow Walt and not myself.
Yeah, I agree with what you say about Alex Smith. He was just a mere shell of his former self in that game he played against the Ravens. But the Cowboys aren't the Ravens, so I think he'll be better if he starts again. And Kyle Allen it's not like he takes care of the ball or anything, as evidenced by his 2 turnovers. So it wouldn't really impact my decision all that much. I don't think I'd change my bet. I would rather have Kyle Allen, but it's pretty close. It doesn't really matter to me. All right, next game, Lions at the Falcons. This line opened up -2. I thought I saw some 3s last night. I don't know if I was hallucinating because I was tired, but this line is now 2 again. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, so I think I like the Lions here a little bit. I know the Falcons just played really well against Minnesota, and they were able to, notch a pretty big win. Matt Ryan got Julio Jones back. That played a pretty big role in that. Dan Quinn being fired also, I think, sparked the team a little bit. You and I both thought that it would be the opposite, that they wouldn't play as hard, but evidently Raheem Morris got them into the right state of mind, and they really just punched Minnesota in the mouth right away, and Kirk Cousins got Minnesota out of that game early. And now Detroit's coming to town, and Atlanta has all their weapons healthy. And, Detroit's defense, they're very bad against the run, and Atlanta has all their pass weapons. So you'd think that Atlanta should be favored in this one maybe. But if you take a closer look at the Detroit defense, they've actually been pretty good against the pass this year. Maybe that's because they're so bad against the run, the teams just don't throw against them. But we saw last week they did pretty well against Gardner Minshew and the Jaguars on defense. They're getting healthier at defensive back, which I think helps. I don't know what the status of Desmond Trufant is, but I know Jeff Okudah, I think, has been playing lately. So that's been kind of a boost to them. So I like the Lions a little bit more on defense than I normally would. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the Lions they have some weapons now that Kenny Galladay's back and healthy. They're using DeAndre Swift more, and this figures to be like a killer matchup for him, provided that they actually give him the carries, which I don't trust Matt Patricia to do. But we have, a bunch of guys on offense that could make some plays against this very bad Atlanta defense and secondary. And they're bad not only against receivers, but running backs have more touchdown catches against Atlanta than any other team in the NFL. So I think Detroit can take advantage of this. I think the effect of Dan Quinn's departure kind of runs out here. Raheem Morris is going to be in the position of that Dan Quinn was in, where it's kind of like, all right, this team has talent, but they're struggling. So I like Detroit in this one. I think they could pull off the upset. Not huge on it, probably do 1 or 2 units, depending on what the injury report is. Watching Desmond Trufant mostly. If he comes back, this is kind of a revenge game for him because he was cut by the Falcons. So be very interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here. I'm on the Lions. Not a big bet at the moment. I think we need Desmond Trufant back. These teams kind of mirror each other, right? I mean, both have defensive issues. And both have had their number one receivers out for a while. Julio Jones missed weeks 3. Actually, he missed a few games, and then he played for a half against the Packers, but wasn't himself and left the game. And then Kenny Galladay was out for the first 2 games, and then he came back, and the Lions have been solid since. The Lions are 2-1 since Galladay has returned, and their 1 loss is to the Saints, which no shame in losing to the Saints at all. I think this is a matchup the Lions can win. To add to everything you said, and I agree with everything you said, there's one other thing that the Falcons have to play on Thursday against a divisional opponent in Carolina. So there might be there's a chance that the Falcons are going to be looking ahead, especially coming off the first win of the season. So I think that's another reason why the Lions could win this game. And the Falcons are not going to make the playoffs. They're 1-5, and I think they know that. But the Lions are 2-3, and if they win this game, they're going to be 500, and they'll still have a chance to get one of the 3 wild card spots in the NFC playoff race. So I just think there's more incentive for the Lions to play hard in this game, and if they have Trufant back to help cover the receivers that Atlanta has, then I think the Lions should cover this. So I'm going to be with you on this probably for 2 units.
Yeah, I forgot about the look ahead thing. I'll be honest, I I told you this, but I woke up late today for the first time, and I made it to work on time and everything, but for the first time in a long time. So I had to make up for a lot of research here. So I didn't do look aheads, but Thursday night game for Falcons, that means I'm all over Detroit then. That's a big difference maker, because I think you're right. These teams mirror each other and are roughly equal. So yeah, I think Detroit's the right side here.
Nice. Maybe we'll have this in the Super Contest, but we'll see. Speaking of the Panthers, so the Falcons play on Thursday. The Panthers are at the Saints. This line opened up Saints -7.5. It's still 7.5. It's actually off the board in some sports books, because I think there's an issue, or there's a question with Christian McCaffrey possibly returning. That was the only thing I could find. When I saw this line come off the board, I'm like, is Drew Brees injured or something? But I think it's McCaffrey. So thoughts on what are your thoughts on this game?
First of all, I think you're right. I think people think McCaffrey can come. He can hypothetically come back this week, but I don't think that he's going to come back till week 8 at the earliest. That was the reports I saw. I'll be on the Saints. I was on them for 3 units in my original pick here. But Walt, did you know that the Panthers are playing on Thursday this week against the Falcons? Because I just found out that information from you. So that makes it even. This could be a potential 4-unit play for me, because we're looking at the Saints are coming off a bye. They're getting healthier. They're getting Michael Thomas back. I think the Panthers are coming off a loss against the Bears. It was kind of a grueling one for them a little bit. They don't have K'Wan Short anymore. They're dealing with some banged up defenders. And, Teddy Bridgewater's been good at times this year, but he has been prone to bouts with interceptions or inaccuracy. We saw that against the Bears. I think the Saints defense has the personnel needed to force him into some mistakes, especially if Janoris Jenkins can play, and Marshawn Lattimore is definitely going to be healthy after a week off. So I think if you're looking at a fully healthy Saints team in this situation with the Panthers playing on Thursday night, which again, mind-blowing information there. I'm going to be all over the Saints. I think that they should absolutely cover. And even though they haven't looked great this year, the extra time thing is massive for them in this game, because I think they'll be very well prepared for this.
Wow, that's I don't know where you got that info from, but it's very impressive. I'm with you on the Saints. They're getting Michael Thomas back. They could have had him back in week 5, but he punched a teammate, so he couldn't play. But now he's going to be on the field again. And we've seen what Julio Jones did for the Falcons, and Kenny Golladay for the Lions, et cetera, et cetera. So Michael Thomas is going to be a big boon for the Saints. People are saying Drew Brees is done. While there's a small chance that could be the case, he's going to look a lot better with Michael Thomas on the field, especially against this Carolina defense that's kind of in shambles. So I think when people look at the Panthers, and especially the record, which is it's 3-2 right now, so people are like, okay, this Panthers team's pretty good, but then again, it's they've lost so many players. So you mentioned K'Wan Short, he's out. They lost Yetur Gross-Matos. He's out. They just lost their safety, Justin Burris. So they're losing players left and right here on their defense. And so I just think that they're not the same team. They beat the Cardinals. They're not the same team that beat the Chargers. They're just kind of falling apart here. And I just don't think they can compete with the Saints right now, especially with Thomas back. So, I'm going to be right there with you on the Saints, even if Christian McCaffrey plays, which doesn't sound like he's going to.
Yeah, and I think the Panthers are better served not to rush McCaffrey back anyway, because Mike Davis has played fine. So why wouldn't you just, if Christian McCaffrey's I could come back this week and be 80%, you would just be just wait till next week. You'll probably be closer to 90%, maybe 100%. So, I just don't see a reason to bet the Panthers at all. So glad we're on the same page here, because this, I believe, is my biggest play of the week on the whole slate.
Nice. Yeah, Panthers, by the way, 3-3, not 3-2. Still, it still applies. I think people look at their 500 and they're like, okay, this is a decent team. But if they had Short and Gross-Matos and now Burris, if they had all those guys on defense, then yeah, they'd be a decent team. But they're just not the same anymore. And by the way, I saw Mike Davis is dealing with an ankle, so that's just another issue for them. And we don't know if Curtis Samuel's going to play either. So. All right, next game, Bills at the Jets. The line opened up -9.5. It's up to 13. The sports books just don't want anyone to bet against the Jets, because they've lost money on the Jets every single week. The Jets have yet to cover the spread at all this year. So is this going to be the week? Is this the week the Jets get off the snide and finally cover a game?
Nope. Nope. It's not going to be. I will not bet for the Jets at any point. And I looked back at my notes and I stupidly bet the Jets to cover, I think, against the Bills in week 1. And I even wrote in my notes, like, yeah, I don't trust Adam Gase, but this number's too high. And it was 6. And I'm like, what the hell was wrong with me? Like, why did I think that at that time? Now we got a 13 here, and I'm going to still atone for my sins and take the Bills. I mean, this is all you need to know. Adam Gase is the Jets head coach. Le'Veon Bell is gone. Joe Flacco might be the quarterback. You might not be, but if he is, oh my goodness, that's bad. And then the Dolphins just shut out the Jets. The whole team's just quitting on Adam Gase at this point because they know they can't win with him, and they know if they're talented, he's going to chase them out of town. It's completely mind-boggling. And meanwhile, the Bills are coming off 2 massive primetime losses, and they're going to want to, they were kind of weird circumstances. The game against the Titans got postponed, which postponed the game against the Chiefs, and then the game against the Chiefs was in terrible weather. So yeah, I think that they should be in fine shape and ready and raring for a win here. I do want to say something about Sean McDermott, though. If Josh Allen starts to struggle in this game, maybe have him dump some passes off to Devin Singletary, because every time I see Singletary on the field and he's just going out to block for Josh Allen to throw up some like prayer pass way downfield, I'm like, they're never going to expect it when he throws to Singletary, and they just never do. So maybe think about some passes to the halfback here a little bit, Sean. But if you're listening to this, which you're not. But yeah, I'm on the Bills here. Might even do 2 units despite this being a massive number, because I will never trust the Jets this year.
Well, it's our 300th episode. Maybe he is listening because of that special occasion. The Jets got me as well. Not in week 1, but in week 4 when they played the Broncos on Thursday night. And the Broncos are starting Brett Rippon. The Jets were home dogs. I was like, okay, maybe I'll take the Jets here. And yeah, that was a mistake. So we both learned from our mistakes. I'm not picking the Jets here. The Bills should win this one easily. This is a get right game for them. Like as you said, like they had those 2 primetime losses against the Titans, the weird game against Tennessee, and then against Kansas City on a short week against Andy Reid. It's a tough spot for them. So losing to 2 teams that are combined was 10-1. Nothing to be ashamed of there, and they can get right here with not a shortened week, but on a shortened week, but like still, I don't think they need more time to prepare or make adjustments for the Jets. So my question to you is, so like at some point you have to bet the Jets, because like if this line were Bills by 64, you would obviously bet the Jets and you would make money, because the Bills are not going to win this game by 64 points. So like, what is the line? I'm curious. What is the number that you would need to actually bet real money on the Jets?
Oh man, you asked this question last year, I think, on the Dolphins at one point, and I had so much trouble with this one. I think with the Jets, I'd have to say they were just shut out by the Dolphins, and they lost by 24. So, and the Dolphins aren't the best team in the NFL. They've played much better than expected, but I think it might have to be like 24. 25 is the number that keeps popping into my head that I would be like, okay, I'll take the Jets at that point. But I think anything from like 20 to 24, I'd be like, all right, I'm just not going to bet this. Like the Jets should cover that, but I don't trust it. But if you get to 25 and you're talking about 3 touchdowns and a field goal, then I'm in on the Jets.
Yeah, I can see that because weird things would happen, and if in fact on that number I wouldn't even be totally confident, because it could just be a 34-0 whitewashing. So I think I probably agree with you. It'd probably be like 26. Because like I remember a spread. It was like between the Jaguars and the Broncos when Peyton Manning was in his prime with Denver, and the line was like Broncos by 27.5 or something like that, and they were at home, and I think they won by 21. So like that's one of the largest spreads I've ever seen. So yeah, anything in that range, I'd bet a little bit on the underdog, just a little bit. Any worry for backdoor cover? Oh, hey, pal is asking. I mean, look. The thing is, like, it could happen. There could be weird fumbles. The Bills could lose a fumble and it's return for a touchdown. There could be a kickoff return for a touchdown, punt return for a touchdown. Like weird things can happen with these large spreads, which is why I don't want to bet too much on them. Like that's my concern. So there can definitely be a backdoor cover for sure. But I'm still confident that the Bills cover. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm still confident as well. And I would worry more about this if Sam Darnold is going to play this week and we don't know that yet, then I might be a little bit more worried. I would hope the line would move a little bit if he's going to play. If it's Joe Flacco, I have no worry about it. Sam Darnold, I actually think has some talent and at the very least can move, which is very helpful because Joe Flacco, watching him try to scramble away from things is just sad at this point. So, yeah, if Darnold plays, maybe a little worry about a backdoor cover on this number, but not too much.
Yeah, I'm actually disappointed that James Morgan's not playing, the rookie quarterback from Florida International. I think he could be good. Definitely better than Flacco. So I want to see him play. Evan's bringing up a good point here. I forgot. Matt Milano is due back this week. He almost played Monday night, so he should be back for this game. Yeah, the Bills haven't been the same since they lost him. Remember, they didn't have him against the Dolphins either in week 2, and the Dolphins almost beat them in Miami. So, we're on the same page here. So next game, Packers at the Texans. This line opened up Packers -3.5. It hasn't moved. It's still 3.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Packers in this one. This is another one I'm pretty big on. Obviously, there's one big injury. David Bakhtiari, the left tackle for the Packers, got hurt against the Buccaneers. If he can't play, then I'm a little less confident in this, but I'm going to be on the Packers no matter what. If you look at the Houston defense, they give up the most rushing yardage to running backs in the league this year. It's almost 1,000 yards already. And it's also the most rushing yards per game, too. I know people will ask that just because, there's sometimes those little quirks of teams having been on bye, but they give up a ton of rushing yards. So Aaron Jones, who just had a bad game, is going to be poised for a bounce back against this defense. And they just allowed 200-plus yards to Derrick Henry. So Aaron Jones probably won't put up similar numbers, but he could definitely crack 100. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of the secondary, which has given up, I think, the 4th most touchdowns to wide receivers so far this year. So they're going to have trouble containing Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and all the weapons that the Packers have. And, Rodgers is an elite quarterback coming off of a brutal loss. He's going to be angry about it. And the Texans are kind of, I don't want to call them a cupcake because I do think they have some talent, but they're not very good. So I think the Packers can win by at least a touchdown probably. And, if things go well, they could blow out the Texans. Now, again, David Bakhtiari's injury is going to be big to watch here. And if Deshaun Watson has a big game, maybe the Texans could cover. It's possible. But I still think the Packers, just from a motivational standpoint, from a matchup standpoint, from a talent standpoint, have everything on the Texans here. Bakhtiari is the thing to watch, but I'm on the Packers for, I think, 2 to 5 units right here, or 2 to 4, really, not 5. So we'll see what happens with Bakhtiari, but I'll be on the Packers regardless.
It's funny, you changed it real quick. I have it from 2 to 5 units as well. So
okay. You know what? Maybe I saw it on your page and it's burned into my memory, and I accidentally read my thing wrong because of that.
That's funny. So yeah, you mentioned the elite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, obviously in that group, coming off a loss. So Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. I think you can probably agree that those are the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Maybe Brady's taken a little step back this year, but I still trust him more than all the other quarterbacks. So those 4, dating back to last year, they're 8-3 against the spread after a loss, as long as they're not favored by more than a touchdown. I like the idea of getting an elite quarterback who's going to be focused. Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed after that loss. Not just any loss. He got blown out on national TV. It was the spotlight game for Fox. And he just got embarrassed by Tom Brady. So he's going to want to bounce back with a big win. And I think he's going to do that. Houston's defense is terrible. They're also going to be exhausted because they're coming off an overtime game. So that's something else for Rodgers. And you mentioned Bakhtiari. I mean, that is big as well. So that's why I'm 2 to 5 units. So I think that's where you are as well with the unit range. So the Titans last week lost Taylor Lewan to an injury, and on the next play, Ryan Tannehill was strip sacked, and then the Texans scored. So we know the Texans, while they can't stop the run or the pass, they can still get to the quarterback with Mercilus and Watt. So having Bakhtiari on the field will be important. Or Probably will be, because Aaron Jones could just rip off 250 rushing yards and just win the game by himself. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Packers, it's just a question of how many units.
Yeah, and I have a question for you just about betting. So if you're locked in on the Packers no matter what, are you going to bet the 2 units out front and then maybe do additional units if Bakhtiari is in, or do you wait and see if Bakhtiari is out and you can get a slightly better number?
If 3 was available, I think I'd lock that in. But there is no 3 as far as I can see. It's like -3, -3.5, -105 in every sports book I'm looking at right now. Maybe I'll try to look to see like a Wednesday or Thursday if we do get some sort of -3. But yeah, there's no reason to lock in -3.5 because 4 is not that much of a key number, even though you would think it kind of is. Actually looking it up, like 4 hits just as often as 8 does, which is weird, right? Yeah, it is. It's strange. So I don't really care if this goes to 4. I'd rather just wait for the -3.
Okay, cool. I was just curious and figured our viewers would enjoy the strategy since you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have on that part.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I actually should post the rate at which each number hits. I should do that at some point. It's gonna be hard during this season because I'm so busy. But during the off season for next year, I think that's something I could do. I thought that was really interesting that 4 and 8 are like hit is just as often as each other, and then like 9 almost never hits. Like 9 is such a rare number to see, which is just weird. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the early games, Steelers at the Titans. The sign opened up Steelers -1.5. It's up to 2. So who do you like here?
I think I like the Titans here a little bit. Both of these teams suffered very significant injuries, one on defense for the Steelers, one on offense for the Titans. You hit on already. Taylor Lewan's out for the season with the torn ACL. The Titans will certainly miss him, but I think that they may be better equipped to deal with his loss than the Steelers will be to deal with Devin Bush's loss, because Bush is the glue that keeps that defense together. He's their most talented linebacker by far and is a true 3-down player. They don't have anyone beside him that could really take on that role. So I think you may see some issues in this first game back of getting the defensive line and calling the defense. I think Robert Spillane's going to come in. I don't know if he'll be the defensive play caller. But without Devin Bush, they're going to have to rely on someone else to call plays for them, which I think is huge. And, the Titans, Luwan's an excellent blocker, but they do have experienced backup Ty Sembrilo available. He's not always been very good, but he's at least played a lot, and he could possibly play on the right side with Dennis Kelly moving to the left. And then Isaiah Wilson, their first-round pick, is around too. I don't know if he's going to be able to play at any point or if he can eventually take over, but they do have options that I think could work. And I just think that with Devin Bush gone, the Titans have the formula to expose the Steelers defense by kind of negating their pass rush, because they can run with Derrick Henry and then run some short, quick routes over the middle. If the Steelers are having trouble getting aligned, Ryan Tannehill can get the ball, get it out, get it to his receivers. They can make plays happen. And if they're not aligned properly, like Adam Humphries, Jonnu Smith, if he's healthy, and AJ Brown can do some damage after the catch. So I like the Titans in here a little bit. I'm not super confident in this one. I'm probably going to go 1 or 2 units on this one, leaning closer to 1 now, just because the Steelers do have an elite pass rush and Taylor Lewan is their best offensive lineman for the Titans. But I think the Titans being the underdogs here, I will favor them in what I think should be a close game.
Yeah, we agree. And the Devin Bush injury was pretty impactful for the Steelers, I think. Kind of reminds me of the Ryan Shazier injury. Now, obviously, like Shazier was a better player than Devin Bush, and the injury was like far more severe. So fortunately for Bush, he'll be back next year. But missing him now is going to be pretty detrimental for them because, like you said, he's the glue that holds everything together. And not having him in the middle of the field is going to cause some miscommunications on defense and stuff like that. And so I think a smart coach like Mike Vrabel and his coaching staff will be able to figure stuff out. And by the way, how genius is that Vrabel intentional penalty? That was just amazing. Like he's been very impressive, I thought already, and like that just takes it to another level. So that is really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, The Taylor Lewan injury is kind of a bummer here because, yeah, I'd like Tennessee more if they had him, and we don't really know what they're going to do with tackle. Isaiah Wilson is eligible to come back, but we don't know if he's going to play yet. But the Titans are the only team with an offensive line concern. David DeCastro was out last week against the Browns, and I like the Browns because of the DeCastro injury. I thought with 2 offensive linemen down, I thought Cleveland could dominate up front. And while I got the pick wrong, I was at least right on that because the Steelers, I think they had 277 net yards of offense. That's it. And they averaged 4.5 yards per play. So they didn't do anything offensively outside of a couple of plays. It was just all taking advantage of Baker Mayfield's turnovers. So if DeCastro's out again, and they're going to be missing 2 offensive linemen once more against a front with Jeffrey Simmons and Daquan Jones and Jadeveon Clowney, I think the Steelers could be in trouble. So for me, if DeCastro's out, I'm going to be on Tennessee for quite a bit. If DeCastro's playing, I may not bet the game, but I'm still probably going to be on Tennessee.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the other thing about the Pittsburgh offense is Ben Roethlisberger's kind of throwing a lot of short, dink and dunk type passes. He's not taking as many chances downfield as he used to, and he's a little bit less accurate on the deep ball. So I think that plays a role in it too. If they're going to run that type of offense, if they can't block, it's going to be easier for Tennessee to sniff things out and kind of make big plays. So, yeah, I agree with you on the state of the Pittsburgh offense. The DeCastro injury definitely was impactful. And, if Baker Mayfield hadn't been so bad, we might have seen a different result against the Browns.
Yeah, someone's asking thoughts for calling for Baker's job. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's the same thing with the people who were calling for Jimmy Garoppolo's job in San Francisco. The minute Baker Mayfield gets back on the field and if he leads a win against the Bengals, it'll all go away. And I just don't think that Case Keenum's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. I could be wrong. There are too many Case Keenum truthers out there too, so I don't want to get into this debate again. But yeah, I think Baker's got significantly more upside, and if he didn't have a significant rib injury, that game could have gone a lot different.
Yeah, it's not like the Browns have a good backup. Keenum's okay, but it's not like they have a Nick Foles or anything. The Bears, you could say, oh yeah, the Bears were right for benching Trubisky because they had Foles. The Browns don't really have a viable alternative. Keenum's just there, to fill in for a game or two. He can't win long term. And Mayfield is injured. So, if you want to bench him for one game so you can get healthy, I'm down for that. But benching him long term, I think is a big mistake. He's going to be better once he's healthy. All right, next game, we're into the afternoon slate. So Seahawks at the Cardinals. The sign opened up Seahawks -3.5, and it's still 3.5. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I think I like the Cardinals in this one. NFC West battles just have a knack for being close. And I know the Seahawks are coming off a bye. They're getting more healthy. They have a lot of time to prepare. And the Cardinals are coming off of a Monday night game, an emotional win where they kind of crushed a Dallas team that, started as the favorite, then wasn't the favorite after the Dak Prescott injury. But slowly we saw all the momentum shift back towards the Cowboys. And then the Cardinals went in and crushed them. But I think they're going to be motivated for this game because they have a bye upcoming after this, and they need to keep pace in the division with the Seahawks and the Rams. This is a golden opportunity to do just that. I think the Seahawks could easily win this game. I mean, Russell Wilson is elite, and the Cardinals defense is not as good as the Dallas Cowboys made them look last week. But I do think Kyler Murray can keep this close because the weakness of the Seattle defense is their defensive line. They just can't get any pressure. So as long as the offensive line and the Cardinals can hold up, Kyler Murray's going to have time to sit in the pocket and make plays downfield. And, if there is any point where he sees there's a lane to run through, he can go after that too. So I think it's going to be a big game for Kyler. I think he keeps it close. I don't know if they win, but given that they're getting more than 3 at this point, I like the Cardinals. I'm not going to bet too much against a red hot Russell Wilson. So I have this set as a 1 to 2 unit bet. We'll see, how the rest of the week goes, because I know the Seahawks, we don't know what's up with Jamal Adams, and that's going to be a big deciding factor in how many units I bet here.
Yeah, Jamal Adams is huge. So I'm actually on the opposite side here, and Adams will determine how many units I bet on Seattle. So a couple things here. This is a rough scheduling spot for the Cardinals. Not only are they coming off a Monday night game, the Seahawks are coming off a bye. So the Seahawks are having so much more time to prepare for this game than Arizona is. and you would expect teams coming off a bye to have a great record against teams coming off Monday Night Football. But it's weird. I actually looked this up, and teams coming off the Monday Night Football games against teams off byes are 33-15 against the spread since 1989, which is bizarre until I thought about it. And I think that's way off because I think the sports books are just pricing the line just way off because of that dynamic. And then I looked into how, elite quarterbacks have performed there. And so elite quarterbacks who are coming off a bye tend to do very well in this dynamic, like as you might expect. So like Russell Wilson always talks about preparation. Like he's huge on that. Like he's a smart quarterback who's always going to be ready. And the fact that he's had a week more plus another day longer than the Cardinals have had to prepare for this game, I think it's going to be huge for him. So I like Wilson having a lot of time to prepare for this game. And I just think that Arizona here, if Jamal Adams is back, it's going to be very problematic for them. Jamal Adams is going to make things a lot more difficult to throw. Seattle's pass defense has been terrible, but Adams is going to fix a lot of problems. So like having him back is going to be huge. Also, when there's snacks, Harrison is going to play. Like he's been in Seattle for a while. I think he's eligible to play this week. So he's going to help stop the run, which is going to be huge. So that means Kyler Murray is going to have to throw more. And Murray and Hopkins had some miscommunications on Monday night. Murray only completed 9 passes. And like this goes back to what I was saying with teams on a shortened week have less time to make make adjustments. And so if there is some sort of issue with Murray and Hopkins, they're not going to be able to fix it this week. So I actually like Seattle here. As I said before, it really depends on Adams' status in pertaining to how many units I bet.
You make good points. So I don't know if I'm quite going to change my pick here, but I'm going to at least think about it because, I don't like betting against elite quarterbacks. And you do have a good point about just how little preparation time the Cardinals have. So I'll change this to a no bet for now. And if I do change my pick, I'll announce it on Twitter later this week.
Okay, just no grudges against me if we miss out on this in the Super Contest.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna hold a big grudge. Like I'm gonna come on here and I'm just gonna start yelling at you on the podcast. It'll be great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our 301st episode will be entertaining if the Cardinals cover. All right. Next game, 49ers at the Patriots. This line opened up Patriots minus 5, and it's down to 2.5. Obviously, I think because of the result that happened last week, plus the offensive line injuries for the Patriots, plus the Niners won on national TV, so that would explain the line move. So, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, the first thought in my head is the Patriots are less than 3-point favorite at home. That's really weird. My second thought is it's even weirder, but I think I like the 49ers in this one right now. And you touched on this a little bit, but the offensive line for the Patriots is in shambles right now. We don't know who's going to be back this week. They have a few guys on the COVID list, so they could get some guys back. I think David Andrews is on IR. I don't know if he's eligible to return this week. If they get players back on the offensive line, I will like them more, but I don't think they match up well against this 49ers team because the 49ers, they got Emmanuel Mosley back last week, and Jason Verrett is playing out of his mind right now. He's playing very well at corner. Richard Sherman is due back soon. So they have enough guys that can cover the Patriots receivers or lack thereof. In fact, I think there were 6 passes caught by receivers against Denver, and they were 3 to Damiere Byrd, 2 to Julian Edelman, and 1 to a guy named Isaiah Zuber. I barely know who Isaiah Zuber is, and I live in New England. So that should tell you about the state of the receiving core there. So I like the defensive matchup there. I think that the 49ers are going to force Cam Newton to have to make some plays with his legs, and the Patriots are going to have to figure out a way to run the ball on the 49ers if they want to score, because the passing game just isn't going to get the job done if there's no blocking and there's no good play at receiver. So I think there's a big advantage there. And then the other side of the ball, the Patriots have a very good defense that I think can contain the 49ers, especially with Raheem Mostert out. But I think they can score some points because Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are just very hard to contain. So I think the 49ers are going to keep this really close. I don't know if they win outright, but I like them as underdogs. Probably not going to bet this one right now because there's been so much line movement and we don't know what the case with the offensive line is. And I may switch picks if there are more offensive linemen back for the Patriots than we expect. There's just too much unknown right now. But if everything were today as it is right now, I would go with the 49ers.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and if the Patriots are still missing all of those offensive linemen, I'm going to be with you on the Niners. But yeah, we don't know what their statuses are. I just looked it up. David Andrews is eligible to come off IR this week. We don't know if he's going to play. We don't know if Shaq Mason and James Ferentz are going to come back from being on the COVID list. And also Jermaine Illuminor, I don't know what his status is, but he got hurt during the Denver game as well. So if they get two of those guys back, I think I would be on the Patriots because of this line value. The advanced spread on this game is 4.5, and it's down to 2.5, which is going through two key numbers. Well, one key number and one slightly less at 4. Also, my number for this game personally is Patriots minus 4.5. And the computer model says Patriots minus 5 is correct. So I think we're getting some really good line value with the Patriots. Also, New England's defense is one of the best against tight ends in the NFL. So I think they should be able to contain George Kittle. They did a good job against Travis Kelce a couple weeks ago. So I think they can contain Kittle. And so with that in mind, I want to take New England. I just want to see if they can actually block, which is kind of a problem. If you can't block in the NFL, you can't win. But if the Patriots can block in this game by getting some guys back from injury, then I think they should be able to win this game.
Yeah, I think the two most important for me are, well, really the most important is going to be Illuminor, even though he might be the least talented of the starters there. I just think that I think it's Corey Cunningham's their backup tackle. If he has to play, that's going to be rough. But if they get him back and then one of either Andrews or Mason or even Ferentz back, I probably will join you because the Patriots have Mike Onwenu, who's a really good backup guard, so he can start. But for now, I'm assuming nothing's changing. I'd be on the 49ers, but if they do get linemen back, probably join you on the Patriots.
Yeah. Someone's asking when the last time Seattle won by 3. They won by 8 in week 4, and they won by 7 in week 3, and they won by 5 in week 2, and 13 in week 1. So they've been winning by more than 3. It's just that Minnesota game was weird, very weird, considering what happened against Atlanta. But I guess we don't have to worry about figuring out the Vikings this week, luckily. All right, next game. It's Chiefs at the Broncos. This line opened up Chiefs minus 9.5. It's up to 10. So who do you like here?
I kind of like the Broncos to cover here. I wrote that this was an interesting line because the Broncos just coming off a win over the Patriots, but the Chiefs beat the Bills. So I guess those kind of wash each other out. I thought this line was going to be a little bit closer and the Chiefs were going to, be a better play here. But I think 10 points to the Broncos just seems like too much. They're getting a little bit, Drew Lock didn't look particularly good against the Patriots, but he was there and he was able to move the ball. And if he didn't have some late turnovers, they would have handily beat the Patriots. And I think the Chiefs are clearly the superior side from a talent standpoint, but they could be in maybe for a little bit of a letdown because they just beat the Bills on primetime and national television. And now they're going to play the Broncos, who their record may not look good, but, they've dealt with a lot of injuries this year. So I think Denver might be able to cover this one here. The only thing I worry about is I'm pretty sure this is the place where Patrick Mahomes got hurt last year. So I don't know if there's any sort of motivation for him to be like, all right, I'm going into Denver. I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to have like one of the best games of my life and just kind of, make everyone realize like, hey, this guy's a great quarterback. I mean, we all already know that, but, athletes keep themselves motivated with anything they can get their hands on. So that's the only thing I'm thinking about from that perspective. That and elite quarterbacks going against divisional rivals for the time tend to do well. But I still think 10 points is too much. So I think Denver, even if it's a backdoor cover, they got a shot at it here.
Yeah, I think so too. This line's way too high. So people are looking at Denver's record, and it's an underwhelming 2-3. But you have to remember that Drew Lock has only played 2 full games for the Broncos. So they had Jeff Driscoll and Brett Rippon. Driscoll played a game in 3 quarters, and Driscoll and Rippon played a full game. So in the games that Driscoll wasn't involved, the Broncos are 2-1 right now, and their only loss was to Tennessee, and they just beat the Patriots in Foxborough last week. So this Broncos team is definitely better than their 2-3 record indicates. Like they still get to the quarterback pretty well, and Locke is solid, and their offensive line is pretty good. So I think they have some things going for them. And the spread, you're right, the spread's way too high. I made this line -7. The Chiefs on a short week too. The Broncos have had more time to prepare for this game. And the Chiefs might be down 2 offensive linemen. Mitchell Schwartz got hurt against the Bills. If he's out for this game, I mean, we just saw what Denver did to the Patriots, missing multiple offensive linemen. So I think the Broncos can put some pressure on Patrick Mahomes and make him struggle a little bit. And, the Broncos usually play the Chiefs pretty well. Obviously they got blown out in this location last year, but that was on the Thursday night game, which really benefits the better team. In other games, remember a couple years ago, Monday Night Football, Denver hosted Kansas City, and Kansas City needed to come back from behind victory, and they only won by 4. So I think the Chiefs will probably win this game between like 3 and 7 points. So to get +10 with the Broncos, especially if Schwartz is out, I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, if Schwartz is out, it'd be really hard for the Chiefs to block up front. I mean, we saw them make a nice adjustment last week. They put Daniel Kilgore in the game at center, and that really changed things after they kind of struggled early in the rain against Buffalo. So I'll be interested to see what they do if Schwartz is out, but I don't know if they're going to have the same success against Denver because their defensive line, there are not a lot of big names up there with Von Miller hurt. I know Bradley Chubb's still playing, but the Shelby Harrises and Mike Purcells of the world, they're getting the job done in Denver. So they don't get as much credit as they're due. I think Vic Fangio is, all things considered, doing a decent job there in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, he has the defense playing well. They have a bunch of like no-name guys except for Chubb, but they're all playing well, and they held the Patriots to 12 points, which obviously the Patriots are down so many linemen, but I still thought it was impressive. And if the Chiefs are down multiple linemen, I think Denver should be able to cover. All right, last of the late afternoon games, Jaguars at the Chargers. This line opened up -7.5 for the Chargers. It's still -7.5. So who do you like here?
I think I like the Chargers. They're coming off a bye, and they've played well this year. I know that they've lost so many games, but all of them have been by 1 score. Which makes me kind of nervous to bet on them winning by more than 1 score because you wonder if it goes in the same direction or if they just only lose 1-score games. But the Jaguars have regressed since a good start. They've lost some key defenders during games, which I think has made a big impact. But we don't know how healthy Miles Jack is going to be. I think that makes a big impact. And the big thing for me, though, is just Justin Herbert has played so well for the Chargers. He's had a full week off to learn more of the offense, maybe get in some work with his receivers. Keenan Allen should be healthy for this game. He was out with back spasms, I think, against the Saints. And, Justin Herbert had his team in position to potentially win against the Saints if his defense played better. I'll be interested to see if Chris Harris or Melvin Ingram come back in this game. I think they're eligible to return from IR at this point. And Joey Bosa is definitely going to be healthier. So I think there's going to be a boost for the Chargers defense no matter what. We saw them hold the Bengals to 13 points in the opener when they were fully healthy. So I think they could have a similar impact against the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars will do a little bit better just because Minshew has more experience, doesn't turn the ball over. But I still think the Chargers can cover the 7.5 number. I'm not going to bet too much on that because it's a rookie quarterback we're talking about. But I could see myself putting a unit on this game.
Yeah, I like the Chargers a lot. So think about it this way. So they're 1-4 right now, but with Herbert, they played 3 of the 4 games they played were against Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. And yet they led in the second half against all 3 of those teams. And especially in the 2 games against Brady and Breeze, they led by double digits in the second half, and they fell apart because they were missing defensive players. Like you mentioned, Melvin Ingram, he's coming back. They already activated him off IR. Same with Justin Jones. Justin Jones is coming back as a solid defensive tackle. We don't know about some of the other guys, but we can assume. I think we can assume off a bye that they're going to get some other players as well. Including the offensive linemen that they've been missing, like Brian Bulaga and Trey Turner. So if they get those guys back, I think if they had all those guys, they would have beaten at least one of the Buccaneers or Saints. And, for the sake of argument, let's just say they had all those players and they beat the Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and they would be 3-2 right now, coming off wins against the Buccaneers and Saints, hosting the terrible Jaguars. I think if they were 3-2 right now, hosting the Jaguars, they'd be laying 13 or minus 13.5. Like, it would be an enormous spread. But because they're 1-4, this line's only 7.5, and I think this line's way too short. I think it should be double digits. The Jaguars are terrible. Like, they couldn't keep up with the Lions at home. Like, how are they going to keep up with Justin Herbert, getting back Keenan Allen and his offensive linemen and defensive players? I think the Chargers team is excellent. I have them ranked 15th in my power rankings. I think that might be too low, considering that the number of players they're going to get back from injuries. So, I think the Chargers just clobber the Jaguars, and this is like over by halftime.
Okay, now I'm way more confident in this one because I love the Chargers too. I was just like a little worried about the lack of results, but you make good points. I also am a wizard, Rick. I'm the reason that Zeke Elliott fumbled twice. That's how I beat Rick this week. But let's hope I can cook up some magic, and I'll up this from 1 unit to probably 3 to 4. If you're that confident and we're both on the same page, why not fade the Jaguars? They've only really upset us really badly upset us that one time when they beat the Colts in week 1.
Yeah, well, they upset me this past weekend because I had.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
I had the Lions, unfortunately. You were lucky not lucky, but you were you had enough sense not to bet them heavily. So someone asked, how is the Jaguar secondary? CJ Henderson has played okay as a rookie, and that's about it. They don't really have anyone else. They're just not a good team at all. They're missing all their players, and they're just a miserable team. Miles Jack has been amazing this year. Not so much last week, but before the injury, Miles Jack was playing great. The Jaguars just had Miles Jack and Josh Allen, and then CJ Henderson. That's it. All right, the Sunday night game, Buccaneers at the Raiders. This line opened up Buccaneers -2. It's up to either 3 plus 105 or -2.5 minus 125. I listed 3 here, so just to make it easier. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm torn on this one. I think I like the Raiders. I just think that the Raiders offense just matches up well with the Bucs defense. Like, they have a pretty good offensive line that I think can negate some of the pass rush pressure from the Buccaneers. One of the reasons they did so well against Aaron Rodgers was that they were able to pressure him very early in the downs and, cover his receivers long enough that he wasn't able to make a play. I think that's going to be a little bit harder for them to do against a Raiders team coming off a bye where their line should be full strength. I know we're waiting on, I think Trent Brown's been dealing with an injury this year. So we got to see if he can play. But I think that offensive line issue could, or that offensive versus defensive line could actually go in favor of the Raiders. The Raiders have played well on offense this year. They torched the Chiefs, who don't have the same type of defense as the Buccaneers. But if they can block well and give Derek Carr time and, get the ball downfield to Henry Ruggs, I think they're going to have a chance to move the ball on the Bucs and keep pace in what could be an offensive battle here. The other thing that concerns me is this is a game in Vegas, so you got the Vegas distraction for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that they could also become flying too high after they just absolutely demolished the Packers, who were considered to be one of the best teams in the NFL and were still undefeated when they went into Tampa Bay. So I think this could be a classic letdown spot for the Buccaneers. I still think they could win, but if we're getting 3 points, I'll be on the Raiders here. I'm not going to bet that heavily because I hate doubting Tom Brady, especially in prime time. So I'm not going to – I don't have a unit count yet. I'm curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, this is one of my least favorite games on the slate. I think it's priced correctly. I think the most likely result of this game is Tampa Bay winning by 3. So I think that at -3, I wouldn't bet this. If this were -2.5 and, you don't have to pay a lot of big, then I think that you can at least think about betting the Buccaneers here. But my concern is what you said. I just don't think this is a good spot for the Buccaneers. A big win on national TV against the Packers. Now they have to go to Vegas, which is is going to be a distraction, we assume, for most teams. It wasn't for Buffalo, by the way, but give the Bills credit for that. So maybe the Buccaneers will stay focused. But maybe they'll go out and bet a lot of money at the casinos and just be distracted. So that could definitely happen. We don't know. If this were a late afternoon game or something like that, like a kind of a game that's not on the radar, I think I would be more inclined to consider the Raiders. But the fact that this is a nationally televised game, I think that's going to be some added incentive for the Buccaneers. So I'm more willing to take the Buccaneers here, especially if it's -2.5. At -3, it's kind of like a coin flip. I still think I'm just going to side with Tom Brady. As I wrote on the site, if you've been betting against Tom Brady, you're probably living in a cardboard box right now. Just because his spread record throughout his career is just amazing. 187 and 128 against the spread in his career. So why bet against that unless you have a great reason to? Also, it's kind of like shorting GameStop, by the way. So I think that I don't want to bet against Tom Brady. I could see picking against him for office pool purposes, but I'm just going to side with Tampa here.
Yeah, no, I think this is probably one of my least favorite games too. I think you're right. It's correctly priced, and literally all our commenters except one have said stay away from the most part. We do have one gung-ho on the Bucks here. I think that I'm going to stick with the Raiders for now. But if this line changes, I may switch back to the Bucks. But this is a no bet for me. I won't bet against Tom Brady in most circumstances anyway. But even if I'm picking against them in a game I don't like, it's definitely a no bet.
Yeah, probably best to kind of stay away from this. All right, Monday night game, Bears at the Rams. This line opened up Rams -6.5. It's down to 5.5. I saw that there was a lot of money coming in on the Bears, and I assumed that there was public money, but I actually just kind of alerted that it's sharp money moving this line down. So the pros like the Bears. Do you agree with them?
I do. I have no idea why the Rams are favored by this much, and I don't like the Bears that much. I don't like either of these teams, but I can't fathom why the Rams are viewed as 5.5 points better than the Bears. I mean, they struggled to move the ball against the 49ers. And the Bears defense right now, as currently constructed, is just as good, if not better, than the 49ers, if only because they're more healthy. But we saw Jared Goff struggle against the 49ers. He couldn't find anyone open. He was misfiring the ball frequently. The running game's been all right, but it's been Darrell Henderson, and then they mix in Malcolm Brown randomly, and they play Cam Akers for one single snap and don't give him a carry. And they're just kind of doing weird things there. And I think Cooper Kupp looked bad last game. He dropped some open passes, and then Jared Goff misfired. It looked like they couldn't connect on throws. So I'm kind of out on the Rams right now. I regret picking them last week and not going with the 49ers. I didn't like that game much, but it was prime time. So I think that the Bears are going to be the right side here. They're just playing well on defense, and they may not score much, but they're going to keep games close, and that's how they're winning. Some of it's a little bit luck, but I don't see the Rams running up a big score here. So I could see this being a field goal game, and I could see the Bears winning it. So I'm all over the Bears at this price.
Yeah, we agree. I don't know why the Rams are favored by this many points either. It really doesn't make much sense, and the sharps are all over it. I wish we got +6 or +6.5, but +5.5 should still be good enough. I think the Rams, if they win this game, would probably be by a field goal, but I could see Chicago pulling the upset as well. The Rams, their 4 wins have come against the NFC East. So I guess congratulations on winning the division there. But outside of that, they were getting blown out at Buffalo 28-3. And then the Bills kind of fell asleep. But yet the Rams they came back, but they still lost. And then they got blown out by the 49ers on Sunday night. A Niner team that just lost to Miami. This Rams team is just not very good. Jared Goff, when he gets a lot of pressure in his face, he really tends to implode. And you can say that about any quarterback, like Tom Brady, the best of all time. He lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants because the Giants put a lot of pressure in his face. But Jared Goff, just he forgets snap counts, when he gets pressure in his face. That's how bad he is, when things aren't going well for him. And the Bears can do that. The Bears can get a lot of pressure on Goff with Khalil Mack and the other Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks. Like, they have a lot of guys to get pressure on Goff. And so I think Goff could have a multi-interception game here. Whereas, the Bears, I think they should be able to move the ball. The Rams have some issues at linebacker, which the Niners exposed. And I think if the Bears are paying attention, they'll be able to do kind of like the same thing there. So, I like Chicago here. Kind of sad that the 6 and 6.5 are gone. But still 5.5 is still good enough.
Yeah, I would have loved to get a 6 or 6.5. That would have felt ridiculous. But yeah, for me, like, this team just feels these teams feel very equal. I like Steven's analysis here. Too bad O-lines take the points. Yeah, that's the easiest way to put it. Just take the points if they're very even teams.
Yeah, that's true. So someone's asking for a teaser. I'd like to do a teaser once per week. I found mathematically, like, the best odds of hitting a teaser are taking a team under 3 and above 7, because that way you go through 3, 6, and 7. Which is like gives you the best math. Like, obviously, like, other than that, like, teasers are just a losing proposition because like if you don't get 3, 6, and 7, you're not going to win long term. So without doing much research and just getting this question, if I were doing a teaser right now, I would go with the 49ers, taking them from 2.5 to 8.5, and I would go with let's see here, the Lions from 2 to 8. That's what I would do for the teaser. But yeah, maybe I'll post that later in the week. We'll see.
Yeah, I would also nominate the Titans for that. I think we're waiting on some injury news there, but taking them from 2 to 8, I think would be good as well.
Yeah, they're another one. Yeah, so 2 of those 3 teams I would definitely do. All right, so we have Survivor picks left. Given that we were both eliminated in week 1 with the Colts losing to the Jaguars, not like keeping full track of the teams we picked, but like this is basically just advice for you if you're still alive. I think the obvious pick this week for me is the Bills over the Jets. The Bills are not going to lose to the Jets, so if you want just a clean winner, just take the Bills. But I think the right thing to do is to take the Chargers over the Jaguars. It's you can use the Bills in more situations than the Chargers, because the Bills will get some easier games at home later in the year, whereas the Chargers they play in a tough division, so you don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe they suffer more injuries, but with everyone coming back, I think the Chargers are the right play here to be contrarian. And like, who knows, maybe something weird happens and Josh Allen gets hurt and there's a lot of turnovers and the Jets somehow pull a miracle. Crazier things have happened. Not too many crazy things, but crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I definitely agree the Chargers are a good pick. I will say they do have a really good 5-game stretch coming up. I think they're playing the Jaguars. I used to know this off the top of my head. I think Jaguars, Broncos, Raiders, Jets, and Dolphins. So there are a couple tough teams in there, but there are also a couple of teams you can pick the Chargers against. So I like them. I would say the Bills are the best. Chargers are good. I would also consider the Saints against the Panthers. I just don't see them losing that one coming out of the bye. I don't think it's the best time to pick the Saints, but if you want to go like hyper contrarian and go with the team that could really just, should win, I would go with the Saints.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, that's it for our Week 7 NFL Picks video. So do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I tweet out pick updates throughout the week. I also retweet some of my content from over at Sporting News in their fantasy department. So if you need fantasy advice, hit me up there or go to sportingnews.com/fantasy. And yeah, let's just keep talking football. We're into week 7 and we're still got a pretty good winning record. So knock on wood, hopefully that continues.
Yeah, I hope so. Week 6 was rough, but I think rebounding here, I think, is definitely possible. So I'm pretty optimistic. I'm more optimistic about this week than I was last week. So I'm at walterfootball.com. Updated pick stuff throughout the week. Injury reports on Friday. So our big update is on Saturday. So there are going to be a lot of changes, I'm sure, just based on the news. Updated 2021 NFL mock draft on Wednesday morning. Updated fantasy rankings throughout the week. So definitely check that out. And once again, thanks for everyone for listening and watching. It's been a blast. 300 episodes already. I didn't do all of them. Like Charlie Campbell did some episodes as well. So thanks to Charlie. Thanks to you for being a great co-host. Also, thanks to Kenny and Matt VI earlier. It was a blast doing episodes with them. I'll have to do some more episodes with Kenny, some fantasy stuff later on. But yeah, it's been great. Please hit subscribe and the like button and everything else. That would mean a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Seriously appreciate it. And as always, Walt, thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. It's been a blast doing this with you for a year and 7 weeks already. So it's been great. So I guess that's it. And I will talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you then.